Hello and welcome. My name is Jonathan Warner, and we provide computer repair, support, and service for both residential and small business clients in the Sacramento, California area. I've got a question for you. Has this ever happened to you? Gone into a computer superstore and felt completely overwhelmed by the huge variety of computers and computer equipment available there? If so, don't worry. You're far from being alone. In this video, we're going to look at 5 things and 5 ways in which we can determine the best computer for your needs. Because the best computer for you is seldom the best computer for me. Are you ready to get started? The first is evaluating your needs. What will the computer be used for? Browsing the internet? Writing emails? Viewing Facebook? Or might it be used for things like gaming or editing music or video files? These things all make a difference on the specifications of the computer and thereby the cost of the computer that you'll need. Which brings us to the second thing as to how to choose a computer, and that is your budget. There are many amazing computers available today that will allow you to get away with the most basic things for a cost of around $200 to $400. Whereas if you're a gamer or use it for more intensive applications, it might be necessary to spend more money. Computers can go all the way up to $2,000 and more. So second, after determining what it's going to be used for, you need to determine your budget. Because if you try to use the wrong computer for the wrong task and perhaps don't budget enough money for it, chances are you're going to be unhappy with your computer and simply have to repeat this process in the future. The next thing to do is decide whether you need a laptop computer or if you can use a desktop computer. The most easy question to ask and help you to determine that is this: can you come to where the computer is, or does the computer need to follow you to class, to the office, to do work on the couch or in the kitchen perhaps, or even watching a movie in bed? Which do you prefer to use? One where you're sitting at a desk, or that you can use it anywhere? Beyond your own preference though, were you aware that more often laptop computers get lost, stolen, or broken? And that's primarily because they're portable in nature. In addition to that, we have to think about why a desktop computer might be preferable to a laptop computer and vice versa. Spec for spec, a laptop computer is going to be far more expensive than a desktop computer. Why is that? It's because they have to cram all those components into a smaller space. So if you have a smaller budget, it may be more beneficial to think about getting a desktop or a lower-end laptop computer. That leads us to our fourth point, and that is the difference between an Apple computer, a Macintosh, or a Windows computer. Many people ask me, Jonathan, what do you think about Apple computers? Well, I think they're great in the proper application. Unfortunately, many people who come from a Windows computer background look to switch over to an Apple computer, and the unfortunate part is that they've been somewhat misled. Misled that there's absolutely no viruses or malware for such computers, which there are and is a concern today. And secondly, that they're far easier to use. If you've been trained on an Apple computer your entire life, sure, they're going to be easier to use. But what if you've used a Windows computer your entire life, and then you look to switch over to an Apple just because you heard that they're easier to use? Well, you've been trained this whole time, and so there's going to be a bit of a learning curve, just as there would be with the new version of Windows that's currently out, Windows 10. Some people tend to use Apple computers for specific applications, such as editing music or videos, because they're somewhat more efficient in that aspect. Whereas, what if the computer is going to be used for gaming? Many video games are made specifically for the Windows operating system. So again, it's going back to evaluating how the computer is going to be used, determining the budget, because most Apple computers are more expensive out of the box. Whereas you can get a Windows computer for much cheaper. So then the budget plays into it. Am I going to get a Windows computer or am I going to get an Apple computer? The fifth thing to take into account is the specifications of the computer itself. So as an example, if you decide to get a Windows computer, what type of processor are you going to get? Is it an AMD or an Intel processor? If you prefer Intel processors or find that the computers that you want to buy feature Intel processors, which family of processor do you want? Is it the M processor, the i3, the i5, and the i7? Beyond processors, how much RAM do you need on your computer? RAM is memory, or random access memory. How much of that do you need? What about the hard drive space? How much space do you need to store your files, or perhaps things that you're going to be downloading? What's the form factor of the computer, which goes back to it being a desktop or a laptop? Some desktop computers nowadays are very compact in size and can easily be stored anywhere. So in addition to that, with the components, is space an issue? These are all things to take into account when you're deciding to buy a new computer. If there's anything that I can do to help, I'd like to be a resource for you. So please feel free to call or email me. I'll put my website information at the bottom, and when you go to my website, you can find my contact information. Again, I'm Jonathan Warner, and if you need any assistance in determining the best computer to buy for yourself or someone else, please feel free to contact me.